Don't tell. Show your partner if they're doing something you don't like. If there's too much pressure on one spot, move their hand to another spot. Push down, lift up, nudge their hand. And nonverbal language is essential for good sex. Resist the temptation to touch back. You're touching your partner for your own pleasure, not theirs. So close your eyes, feel the texture of their skin, and just forget about your partner. Jan, you look so much more relaxed, and it's like you have passed something.
I mentioned to George last night that it's very curious that I said I felt like a 12-year-old, and that's where I'm picking up my sex life, is where it was interrupted with some really painful experiences. And I'm just really excited at the possibilities that are open for me now to completely let go. I've been able to look at myself in a totally different light. It's I have a birthday coming up in 2 days. It's all part of rebirthing in a sense for me too. It's a rebirth of my sexuality, of my sensual self, of feeling female, and being really okay with that.
What happens to a child that's being molested is that child gets robbed of the spontaneity of sexuality. There is a memory back there of some kind of boundary that's been invaded early on. Some parent came in, and it became important for the child to close off their sexuality. And children should not have to do that. Children should be allowed to be as sexual and spontaneous and seductive as they can be, and that's what they practice in childhood. And parents should be safe, so that there is a safe surrounding for that child to express all these things. Little girls will do anything to seduce their dad, not knowing it's sexual, but being very seductive, and the little boys would do the same thing with mom. And parents are supposed to be very safe around that.
I was very passive about what was happening, when it was happening. I didn't tell anybody. In other words, I couldn't. I wasn't safe, and I didn't tell anybody what was happening. And so today, it's like that whole cover-up, was all part of my suppression of all my own sexuality later on. And I'm the biggest part of that cover-up. So when you ask me a question like, why can you not do this in front of George, and why can't you even do it in private with yourself? I'm still covering up a lot, and I see that, and I can connect.
If a child is abused and molested, the child often feels it's their fault. And therefore, what I heard you say, and I'm not sure you meant that, but what you said was, I always kept the secret. As if you were bad. I don't think there was any other way for you to survive than to keep that secret. It wasn't allowed to be brought out. And if you had brought it out, bad things would have happened.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I also was raped in high school and couldn't tell anybody. I didn't tell a soul until 2 years ago. And the same thing, it was all part of the same thing, that I knew something drastic would happen if I brought it out, if I told anybody. And it is a lot of self-blame, that I'm still working through.
I would like you to do something for me. I would like you here to say, it wasn't my fault.
It wasn't my fault.
Can you say it again?
It wasn't my fault.
That's right. This was the turning point for Jan. She accepted that she was not to blame for her childhood sexual abuse. This had been the block to Jan's sexual spontaneity, and now she is letting go of it. Your experience may be completely different from Jan's, and this program may affect you in different ways. But don't be surprised if powerful feelings come up for you. For now, just be patient with your inner process and take this program as slowly as you need to go in order to make it work for you. This is session 9. Good morning.
Morning.
You want to tell me what's been going on since I saw you last?
Our homework was a little different this time. She was going to straddle me and then place my penis with her in a 45-degree angle. I was somewhat concerned about whether or not, before the session, whether I was going to have an erection, because I was saying, oh, I don't know if you're going to have an erection, because I was anxious about that moment, and I was able to. And then we did some self-masturbation, which was a lot easier for me this time, a lot easier, and it was quite an evening. It was quite an evening.
Can you tell me what it was like for you to be inside?
Without thrusting of any kind, you know, it was somewhat difficult, in as much as that I wanted to have some kind of movement, you know, and but I just felt her insides, you know.
How did that feel?
Felt good, and it felt like a fit. It felt like a real fit, you know.
That's very important, because we talk about the opposite sex, and you know, really, we should talk about the complementary sex. Opposite gives us a sense of competitiveness and all that, and it really is a fit. It's a match. It's the complementary sex.
And we stayed like that for about a minute or so, you know, and then we continued with my part, which she continued touching me, and then after that's when we got into self-masturbation.
Sounds like you were pretty turned on.
Yes.
How was it for you, Jen?
It was probably one of the most sensual experiences of my life. First of all, I initiated the session, and I was in a good, playful mood when I did that. I just had a birthday party, and I just felt like this is my night and my time, and I took it. And I really enjoyed George touching me, and I manipulated his hands a lot, did exactly what I wanted to do with my breast, with my buttocks. And then I turned over and placed his hand on my chest when I was laying down, so that I felt that real closeness, and just kept it there. I wouldn't let him move it. I wouldn't let him go anywhere. It just felt good to have his strong hand there, and I just laid on his strong hand. It was really very, very sexy. And then when I placed his penis inside me, I was throbbing, you know, and I could feel him throbbing. And that was, to feel somebody throbbing like that, and myself, it was just, I probably could have climaxed then. And then we both, when we separated, it was a natural kind of separation. It was a completion in itself, but I wasn't through, and he wasn't through, and we self-masturbated, and I watched George intently this time. Instead of, you know, I just keep pushing myself a little further to take some pleasure in an area where I don't normally.